Hello. Good morning. Welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make the Elm City tick. Nothing ticks better than Pundit Friday, which is to begin here right now in the WNHH studio. With the number one pundits in the media universe, -1. One more week, we got Markeisha Ricks is on the road in the South, taking care of some business. We love you, Markeisha. Can't wait till you come back.
Yep.
Hope it's a great rest of your journey.
Yes.
We're carrying on today
We miss you.
with the dairy-free goddess of our grassroots radio operation, the belle of our ball, the managing editor of the Inner City News, host of WNHH's Love Babs, Love Talk program.
Yeah, she was on a rampage this morning. Don't mess with her today.
Ass hats unite.
Babs Rawls Ivy, the queen of quippery, the quintessence of compassion. La Voz Hispana publisher Norma Rodriguez Reyes, making sure that skinny people get enough to eat in New Haven.
¿Qué pasa?
WNHA station manager and Heavy D Donald Trope Devete. Harry Jarose is in the house. And we got one other guy here. Trying to figure out who that is. Oh, yeah.
He over here stuffing his mouth.
It's the conqueror of cannabis commerce, the bright light in the New Haven night, the straight shooter from Bermuda, the mystical and metaphorical man on the money, the tackler of tempestuousness and titan of temperance, the banisher of bilious bullies, prince of pleasantries and punctuality, sorcerer of scientific solution, blessed beatboxer of banksters and bacchanalians, the just-in-time judge of jackals and japery, the righteous reaper of restitution, the griot of the grassy knoll, the keeper of the cure, the mellifluous and meritocratic miner of melody, the plow driver of peace, the erudite earl of ergonomics, the undertaker of unfiltered utterance, our executioner of existential enemies, alchemist of assonance and alliteration, the zealous zapper of xenophobia, the quintessential quipper of quotable quackery,
That guy.
the grandee of grandiloquence and gastronomics, our prized protector against pusillanimity, the bodhisattva of battle rap, the missionary of modesty, mesmerizer of the masses, the shaman of the shoreline, potentate of 360 state, recognized ringleader of risque repartee, Joe Ugly of the Joe Ugly Show in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, sir.
So now you recovered from your trip to Paris. You're talking like a regular guy again. You still got the beret and the accent.
I lost my bed in Paris.
Hey, folks, this week, one of the big issues on the radar, a lot happened this week.
A lot.
One of the big issues on the radar is boom times and who cashes in, who gets to share in the success. New Haven is, our unemployment rate is down in half.
Nice.
Since about the last 6 years. We're building like crazy, gangbusters. I don't know how long it's going to go on, but it's still going on. I heard even last night on the bus about one builder who is just looking for another lot, can't find one to do a big project, and it's going up fast. And two events happened this week that raised the question of what, if anything, we could do to make sure everybody shares in this progress.
Okay.
The first was sort of a surprise encounter at the downtown Worcester Square Community Management team. So they had some folks there from a big builder named Spinnaker. You often don't see these people in person, and now you go to these meetings, we see them in person, the people doing stations, this kind of stuff. So Spinnaker is this company from Fairfield County. They're doing a good job. They're just coming in and building stuff. And we're not giving them breaks, no money, anything. Just they come in and build it. They got to get approval of the site plan. It all works. So they just threw up Audubon Square is going really fast, that new
Very
project
fast.
at Grove and Orange. They finally got past some lawsuits from some neighbor who didn't want the competition. They're about to build at the old Comcast building, hundreds of apartments, stores.
The Comcast built over on Olive Street.
Olive and Grand. Olive and Chapel. They're building the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel at the old Webster Bank here, Olive and Elm, where I heard there's going to be some prayer meetings going on in the lobby. And they've been brought in to rescue the Coliseum site. So they're building. And they came to update the neighborhood because they got all their approvals. They didn't need anything from the neighborhood. But a lot of carpenters showed up and other people who just do work. And they say, we're licensed, but we're not getting these jobs. And we're looking at what you're doing. We're not getting these jobs. And they said, well, we hire subcontractors, and you should definitely put in your application. Everybody gets a chance. And they say, that's good enough. What are you going to do? And the city said, there's not much we can do because if we sell them land or if we give them a break, there are all sorts of rules we can enforce. The number of people you hire who are local, women, minorities. But if they just buy some property and they're doing something they're allowed to do, as long as they follow the law, there's nothing you can do. They said, that's not good enough. We want you to do better.
Right.
And some of our commenters weighed in on both ends on this. And one side said they can give the word to their subs, saying hire some New Haven people.
Mm-hmm.
Other people said it's more complicated than that. They like to hire immigrants, maybe sometimes illegally, because that keeps the cost down. Other people say the city can even work with the state to make sure there are regular inspections, let's say health and safety inspections, maybe even immigration, whatever, so that they're not just trying to get cheap labor. Any thoughts from you folks?
I've been at this issue. I used to serve on the Commission on Equal Opportunities. That was my first appointment to government at that level, service at that level. And Connecticut, New Haven's Equal Opportunity Commission is I think the oldest in the country.
Oh.
For municipal.
And that's the 12 and a half law that when you get city land or you get any kind of federal money, state money, you got to hire a certain percentage of women-owned firms, minority-owned firms.
And so I've heard, I've been listening to this, 25 years about how to connect local contractors to these big development jobs, and we've been having this conversation for 30 years, probably longer. I mean, I'm only 55. We've been having these conversations, and the thing that troubles me is that we always start from zero when we have these conversations, as if there are no minority contractors in the city, as if that these developers don't know how to connect to minority contractors.
And then we talk about how the city's one role could be they help them get
and the
some
city has
short-term
played all
cash
kinds
to hang them
of
over.
roles in this thing. I mean, the Davis Bacon. We've had a hand in this conversation from the beginning, and it's just mind blowing to me that we are still having this conversation and we don't have a ready blueprint in place to sort of lead and show people how to do this. In a city this size, with this kind of economic development going on, we really should be leading on showing people how to do this.
The administration opened that Opportunity Center on Dixwell Avenue near where Shelton starts, that old building, and they do have training. They try to link people up. There are all sorts of help that small contractors need, and there's a Greater New Haven Business Professional Organization that works with contractors. They belong to that association, where like some of the issue is you don't get paid for 90 days when you're a sub, and you don't have cash to tide over, and you get people cash. I think Bow's one big difference from when you were dealing with the issue before is that now what's new is we have so much private construction on private land with no government money. So we lose the leverage that we had, whether it's the Davis-Bacon Act or the Commission on Equal Opportunities laws that it enforces for set-asides.
But
I think what I hear you saying is that there's stuff we could do to create an infrastructure. That's a fancy word for saying a system where people know where to go and how to link up.
But I think we certainly can change the leverage because people, even if you're a developer, you're not getting any support from, if you're not getting any fiscal support or any sort of breaks from the city on terms of what you're doing. I mean, there still is community involvement. There still is opportunity for people to sort of say yay or nay on these projects, right? So developers can't just come in here willy-nilly and build whatever the hell they want.
But you can't say no based on anything. Site plan, for instance, approval, I think is what you're talking about.
But that's all well and good.
But they can take you to court if you say no based on local hiring.
But here's the other part. You can make these developers be better community partners.
Yes.
Do they really want attached to their name the fact that they don't give a damn about the community that they are working in? Some of them will. But I think
you're right. Others, it's better for business and their bottom line to have good community.
And they want to be seen as better citizens and purveyors of goodwill.
Because that helps them succeed. What they weigh that against is sort of the wink and the nod about how cheap some of the labor is if you're not needing to follow certain rules. But Joe Ugly or Norma were about to weigh in here.
Go ahead.
As we're having this conversation, I'm going back. My computer's going back to quite a few number of years, maybe 20, 25 years, when the City of New Haven Development Administrator's Office, they had created a position, and it was a bilingual position. The person that got hired, in order to service all of the needs of all the residents, so. and their job was to make sure that they dealt with that they knew every single company that was doing business in New Haven, and connecting individuals to those kind of jobs. And I think, that's very important. A job, you connecting them with the job, and may it be like, although it's not only development, but also these folks need other kinds of administrative jobs also. So, connecting them in terms of the entire building of the structure, and then also providing different services for the structure.
When it's up. I guess what I'm looking at is, I understand what you're saying, Paul, when you say it's a private development, but Babs, I'm with you. If you're not going to employ...
I wasn't against what Babs was saying. I was saying what the bigger hurdle is. Yeah.
No, I didn't mean to imply that either. I was adding on. I was adding on to my position is that I'm with Babs. Is you have these developers that come into town, and they don't think they have a responsibility, not just a need, but a responsibility to hire minority contractors, especially when you have people in the area right here that it is. If you don't think that should be part of your program, then you need to be shamed.
And the issue here also is local.
I don't care if it's
local
private,
people of color. Whether you get local laborers. They had one guy who got into the union. He got his certification, journeyman or carpenter, and he's working at Bridgeport, but he can't break in anywhere in New Haven.
Exactly, but here's another thing. You get into these schools that tell you, hey, you're going to do this. And you get your contractor license, and this thing is not cheap for somebody who's trying to change their life. And they go the extra mile, and then they do all of this stuff, and then all of a sudden they shut out. And if not the contractors, but developers are not looking at that, then they need to understand that, guess what? People made sacrifices to try to make a living and advance their lives. You don't have a right. You don't just coming into communities. And when you look at the communities they're coming into, downtown, of course. So, they don't really care about who they put out. But at the end of the day, this is New Haven. We're not that size town that you just...
And this is also Pundit Friday.
You're the man.
On the community home for radio in New Haven, WNHH-FM, 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. Joe Ugly, Nora Rodriguez-Reyes, Babs Rose-Ivy, and if we're lucky, maybe Harry Drost. We're running down the headlines and the stories from the
Harry's
week.
like, I'm working.
another sign of this question of who gets the cash in benefit. Yale University has grown. It's the largest employer in town by far. And they made a promise after demonstrations by Unite Here Union and community groups that by this April they're going to hire 1,000 new local people for jobs, 500 long-term, 500 of them from lower-income neighborhoods. So there was a big hearing Thursday night in City Hall, and big crowd. They know how to bring out the crowds and make it look good with the posters and all different kinds of people telling compelling personal stories. And they were pressuring Yale, saying, the deadline's coming, we don't think you made it. So Yale spoke, and Yale said at City Hall, we're really close. We have numbers. One way you can look at it, we already exceed the numbers, but then if you're counting some people who might have been short of short-term stuff, we're almost there. The union says you're not almost there because you're counting a lot of people who are casual labor, meaning that they're here for a while, but they don't have a permanent guaranteed job. You're counting people who had construction license with a construction company brought in short time on a job. You're counting PhDs who are like postdoc doing some works, but they're just here for a little while, camping on some East Rock apartment. And so they feel that, and this gets into a larger issue about between the union and Yale about whether more jobs are permanent union jobs or where they can, people they can fire and hire more easily. So that was kind of compelling, kind of an interesting point. Chris Peake in his story in today's Independent, where you can read all about this, he said, since they made that promise a couple of years ago, the unemployment rate has gone below 4%, when I believe it was over 7%. So there's less unemployment in town, but then who's getting the jobs, and what about people hardest hit neighborhoods where the unemployment rate is much higher? Any thoughts on that, Joe?
Well, what I look at is Yale as an institution, being here in the city of New Haven and the largest employer of jobs is really a top issue. That's something that I think should be on the forefront. We're going to fight that. We're going to address that. My biggest problem with Yale is that I have a problem when I see kids. I'm talking about kids. I'm talking about kids in junior high and high school that only see Yale as an employer, and not as an educational.
Joe, say that. Say it.
And not as an educational institution.
Yeah.
I have a bigger problem about that.
Yeah.
When we hear about Yale and the community, all we hear is the job this, what job this, the job. Why?
Because our kids think they can't get in.
Exactly, and that really bugs the daylights out of me. That's all I got to say about that.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I had the
Spike
opportunity to go to Yale because my mother had an appointment.
Yale New Haven Hospital?
Yale New Haven Hospital, and the 4th floor, I guess cancer.
You were at the cancer hospital, Smilo?
Yes, Milo.
Yeah.
And as
Hope
I
your
w-
mom's okay.
oh, thank God, yes. But as I'm sitting there waiting for my mother to be called in, I look around the waiting room, and I saw no other Hispanic, and I saw no African Americans there. So that I said to myself, oh my goodness, this is very scary because the appearance is that the ones that got cancer are white folks.
Mm.
So then, as I also walked through the hospital,
God, I really don't want to see us in those places. But okay,
definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah, so I think that's a blessing, right, for our community. But I think it's also very sad, given the fact of what's happening in Connecticut, you know, that the white population is getting old and they're not having babies, so it's definitely decreasing a lot.
Oh, that's interesting. No, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I guess your concerns is if blacks are getting service.
No, my concern is as I'm walking through the hospital through different departments, okay, the emergency room,
It's very black
the cafeteria.
Over there. Have you seen how
yes,
black
it is?
It's like
and no
Wakanda over
Hispanics
there.
at all.
Oh.
No Hispanics at all. And yet I speak to a lot of, like, when I meet Hispanics
like
that are
Wakanda?
educated, I ask them, have they applied to Yale, okay, to get jobs? All of them have applied to Yale. None of them have ever been accepted. I remember years ago, we had a Phyllis Medvedow, okay? Phyllis Medvedow was connected with the community. She was in community relations for the city of New Haven. And so therefore, it was kind of her job to bring in people into, you know, who are the Phyllis Medvedows of Yale, New Haven that can bring
That's a good
in
point.
community people? Because, you know, all they tell you to do, go fill out an application. Thousands of people fill out applications. How are you supposed to know which ones are the individuals that you give an opportunity to from the Hill, from Fairhaven, from Dixwell, from New Hallville, from our communities?
That's a good point.
As I said, you know, the job issue is always on the table. They're the largest employer in town. So that's always going to be it.
Not of Hispanics.
I'll tell you who made out pretty well this week.
Who's that?
$21 million changed hand in 2 days in New Haven.
What?
A symbol
Was
of
it a drug deal?
sort of real estate.
Oh.
And boy, is the
Same
market
thing.
hot. You know 100 House Street? It's a big apartment building.
Yes.
100
So
how? 100
that was
how?
in pretty bad shape in 1994, the last time it sold. You know how much
Yeah.
it sold for then?
How much?
$10.
I should have bought it.
You know
then.
how much it sold for it in the past week?
21 million?
11 million.
Hmm.
Now they got some properties around it where I think they're going to build up. There's like a lot. I think they're going to want to put another building. Someone bought 6 properties around it for a total of 15 million. Then up on Whitney Avenue, there are 2 big apartment complexes next to each
Who's
other.
buying this stuff up?
Yeah, this guy is from like Mexico and Connecticut does development. People are seeing big dollar signs here in New Haven and plunking down a lot of money. In Whitney Avenue, there are these 2 apartment buildings, pretty well kept up. Sold in the 80s combined. They last sold for $700,000. The 2 of them together.
God.
They sold for $6 million this week. Now the people who bought them were called mod equities. You know, a lot of people coming here to build. Now, these brothers doing a pretty decent job in what they do. Joseph and Jacob Feldman from New York, and they get
Is
the
that did they do the place on State Street? No, that's
yeah,
not them.
they're doing the
Is
one.
that them? The firehouse, the old fire. What was that building? The old Y House, or?
Oh no, that's Ocean Management and Paris Realty.
Oh, I don't like them.
Yeah, they're different.
Sorry.
Well, they have some
The
other.
old
That
railroad
group,
building
that
you
group
talking about?
actually has different issues
Yeah.
because that same group does a lot of low-income housing. The films do like usually until this deal, smaller buildings. Now they're trying to do where the Regal Beagle was, make that into apartments.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really building. They got access to. There's people lending money for these projects, like Spinnaker and others. They go to the lenders.
Absolutely, right?
They're willing to put tens of millions of dollars up. The Feldmans also haven't been. They were supposed to do Harold's on Elm Street here, right near State. The old Harold's. They're gonna make apartments, 46 apartments, 5-story. They haven't got started on that, but they said that's gonna happen. But it's happening.
Wait a
It's
minute.
really
the
happening.
Harold's building right here
Yeah.
is going to be
A
redone.
5-story building.
Wow.
I'm just, my concern
46
is about.
apartments.
I mean, we
Not
how
gonna
many?
block your
Like,
view.
who's keeping the tally of all the apartments? Who is there a big number? Is there a number?
I'm sure
And
economic
when do we-
development is.
Like, do we ever say no? Like, oh no, we are.
Well, there's no yes or no to say there. Someone owns a building, they sell it to someone else. So Harold's everybody wanted because that was an empty building, and it's nice to have people living right in this
Where is
area.
Harold's?
Harold's right down on our
Right down
block
the
next to
street.
the next
Right
to the
next door.
You see-
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah. Okay,
formal-
okay.
The
The,
old formal
bridal
shop.
shop.
Yeah.
The bridal shop.
No, no,
Yeah.
some of those vacant lots we want them to build because people live there.
Oh, no,
you pay
I
taxes.
get it, but it just seems all at once. It just seems. I mean,
Yeah.
listen. When I move back downtown, this would be great for me.
Now my question is, when they give you the top floor of the Alexian Tower, when it says the Babs Love Babs Tower, are you going to
Yes.
put a neon sign with your penthouse apartment?
That's
we can?
right.
Tasteful.
I want to see
There
it
you
coming
go.
off the highway though. Can
Yeah,
it be?
yeah,
Yeah.
you got to see it. I mean, it's not gonna be Trump gaudy. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But it would be.
It's gonna have a big heart.
It'd be
No.
Oprah tasteful.
Love.
But
All
that.
right.
but our prayer meeting place, the Regal Beagle, man, it's closed up, right?
No,
But
Well,
they're,
they're
you know what?
moving
They're
to the
moving
old
around the
Anna
corner.
Liffey's.
Anna Liffey's.
Yeah.
They're moving to Anna Liffey's.
Although-
That's not around the corner.
It is around the corner, but the parking is going to be a pain right there.
I know.
That's the only thing because they had a nice little lot
Yeah.
next to them, so you could park in the lot and walk right into the space. Now,
So these are, they call white people problems. These are good problems
Yeah.
for a city. People building, they're making apartments in that building.
listen,
What
this
a
is.
time.
I'm just trying to figure out my drinking schedule. I got to figure out where I'm going.
But I remember going to I think it was the Southern an event there in which the mayor was speaking and we were on the panel together, and she mentioned how many years ago there were really 150,000 people living in New Haven,
There were more than that. There were like 160,000 back in the day.
right? And
Now we're
that really
130
is
cut
what
goes.
she would like to see happen.
I think it
in
might
New
happen.
Haven.
I mean, we're getting close to 140.
And
the
you know-
projections are we're going to hit
Yeah.
140.
Yeah,
One
I
thing
can see
about
that.
this mayor that she's very humble and she doesn't toot her own horn, and a lot of people take that for weakness.
Mhm.
They don't understand all the great things that she
She
really
has
had done
really
with the
done,
city.
right.
All the people do.
Well, it's
talk-
interesting. She's done a good job shepherding these development issues, which she hasn't really called attention to. But that I think they've been handled intelligently. I'm thinking about the way the Hill is getting that big project that since 1986 they weren't able to get. I'm thinking about the College Street Music Hall. I'm thinking about so Michelle Garnier. Great to hear from you. Okay, who's going to be able to afford to live in these apartments? Great point. In some of these projects, they put 20% affordable in. Like that's going to be the one, the Hill. Ife's got a great point. What I'm hearing, because everyone wonders, like, when thousands of new units come up, who are these human beings? And I used to think they were really computer icons, but they really were people. They were people who go to the 3 professional schools at Yale where they have money, business, law, and medicine. They got people who either commute to a job in Fairfield County, New York, or they're in a couple. One person's here and the other one commutes, or they're halfway between Stanford and Hartford because it's a fun city. At some point, that supply is going to run out. I think Ife's got a great point. At some point, I'm hearing that it's even getting a little soft on some of the buildings, like I think even 360 State, Joe. But but people are still building. The money's still flowing. I think Ife, one prediction I have is that we're going to see what happened on a larger scale than what happened in the 90s when we built all those condos in late 80s, especially
I
in the
knew
east
you were
side of
going to get
town.
to that.
And it was okay. They overbuilt. Some investors lost money, but we had all these buildings that could then be rented affordably.
Let's not
So, like,
forget
if you lose your money, like the people, like, there's no way you're going to get $3,000 a month for all these apartments. I think on Winchester Avenue, but that's a big New York developer. He's the guy who did the Net Stadium, and so if he loses it, he gets a write-off. Somebody buys it for a fraction of the cost, and they'll be able to afford to charge a lower rent and make money. The question is, will we have the regulatory ability to make sure that they don't become slum properties? So what happened was some of the complexes in the east side with the condos, some of them turned into crack dens.
See,
and
that's,
that we weren't
See,
enough
that's
on
that's
my
top
a
of
part
them.
of it that I
But a lot of it was
I
like
know
solid
you
middle class housing.
I know you reflect on the 80s when we talk about housing in here, but I also remember that blight era, like you said, where some places were turned into crack den. Remember the apartments the condos they built at the corner of Winchester and Division that went all the way down, that they had to eventually tear down and then put individual houses there. There were blue condos that went from Winchester all the way past Newhall Street to the other side of Newhall. They had to eventually tear those down and put up housing.
And I'm thinking there was one near Hemingway Street on the east side, which became a whole complex
Because
that got rid.
keep in mind also, when you have housing explosion, it starts off where it's nice in like the downtown area, the Westfield areas or such. But when they go into the hoods, then the labor starts getting cheaper and cheaper. Great example was that development that I was just talking about. It was literally falling apart 3 to 5
That's a
years
good
after.
point. I'm liking some of the stuff I'm seeing in Dixwell. I think they've done a really good job in Monterey
Yeah,
keeping that
that-
up. And
yes,
then and then
exactly.
right where the old Cardinals Club where Kay
I mean,
Holmes
but
has her
listen,
shop now.
but here's the thing
those
with,
are new
but
apartments.
what people
that are
don't
nice.
understand is that you have to have management that is strict. That's the key to all of that.
But I think
And,
it
I
starts
mean-
with construction though, because like I
No,
was
no.
saying,
I mean, no.
yeah.
Construction is
No,
good.
you're
but-
right. So
but-
like Babs, your example I'd give you is Munson Street, where they're about to put something like 200 apartments, kind of upscale there.
Mhm.
And if that goes south, is management going to be the key?
it has to be management. I mean, because I came in when I was working at the housing authority. I came in under the Monterey Place, all of that development, and so I was very personally connected, and I ran programs out of the Monterey Place. But the developer, they were very deliberate about the kind of management that needed to happen there, and in the beginning, tenants were a little annoyed, upset about the what they considered a heavy hand of management.
Mhm.
But if it wasn't for the
Well, the right.
heavy-handedness, what they considered heavy-handedness of management, I don't think the structure would still look as good as
I
it
agree
does.
with you so much because
Correct.
at 15 years they had to have some of their breaks reconsidered. And usually people say, well, tax breaks developers. To a person, starting with the Aldridge and at Morrison, I walked around Monterey and talked to people, the elderly building, the kind of family buildings. Everybody said, give them the break. They're doing a great job running and managing this housing. It looks good. As Babs said, there are strict rules people are cool with.
Yeah.
That's really good
I mean,
housing in what used to be a
It-
tough
it-
part of
it-
town.
and
a
it-
very tough part
and
of
it
town.
could
had something-
easily, in the wrong hands,
go
south.
Right, no question.
Real
Yeah,
quick.
with
So
ease.
and that's a
With
lot of property
So
to go
Ife
south.
has
Exactly.
written
Nothing
back.
wrong going south sometimes. Nice and warm over
Ife
here.
has teed me up for my my big issue, the big thing I've been running on lately. Ife says, so is Yale hiring people from New Haven at a rate to be able to afford these places?
That's
so
a
I
good
think
point.
that's a great point.
That's a great point.
I don't
So-
think they're building these. First of all, let's not be confused. They're not building this housing for New
The
Haven
community.
proper community.
They-
They're building this housing for people
For
to
the
come
Yale
in,
community.
or people who are at
Exactly.
Yale,
That's
or
not-
people.
yeah.
They're
For
not
people to
building
come-
this. They're not building this property for people like me and Ife and
well,
Michelle.
some of the apartments, the question, well, I thought, in terms of building, how about owning? There hasn't been a big ask of Yale in a generation, any big effort for the city.
Mhm.
What if we said to them, we got this problem with the police department. We can't afford to pay them like the suburbs. There's no lure for good cops to come here. What if Yale extended its home buyer program?
What?
Where
Yeah,
you give
right.
people
you know what they'll
money if
say?
they buy a house in New Haven. We help
Why
you
don't
down
we-
payment for 5 years if you
Why
stay
don't
there.
we
To Yale,
annex New Haven police
to New
department?
Haven cops. Why isn't Yale workers now, if you buy a house, especially in poorer neighborhoods, they give you 5 years down payment. You
Right.
afford to buy a house. If you're blue collar there, you could do that.
Mhm.
What if they did that for New Haven cops? As a big
So why
city?
would Yale do that for New Haven cops?
Because Yale's always under pressure to do stuff for New Haven.
Mhm.
They want it to be a safe city,
Mhm.
and it gives them a not super expensive way.
And
to-
does that give
to-
them a low key way to have some power
Oh.
over our police force?
No power
Yeah.
on our police force
Mm.
because
But
they
no,
just
but
say
you're
any
right.
cop would be eligible.
That's exactly what I just said. Then they'll turn
we're
around
having
and
an-
annex New Haven
we're-
police. out of
That's
you.
right.
You know,
We're
no,
having
we
an
don't need
event, and we need police presence.
that. Yeah.
Let me remind y'all.
Who give you the housing? Who's your landlord?
And who's your pundit? Your pundits are the Friday pundits. Babs Rolls, Ivy Nora, Rodriguez, Joe Ugly here on WNHH FM, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live stream, newhaven.org. Ife Michelle Garney, thank you so much for writing in. She wrote yup, and I'm yupping her yup. And I got another bone to pick.
Uh-huh.
Uh-oh.
I'm pissed.
Uh-oh.
What?
I'm pissed off.
Uh-oh. Oh, Beezy?
What are
For
these
Sheezy?
snooty historic district commissioners doing
Lawrence Street.
to poor Jimmy Wang in Wooster Square?
Is that the pizza people? No.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Let me tell you about Jimmy Wang.
Please do.
Because I can't believe there are so many levels on which this is messed up.
Uh-oh.
And it really gets to class
Okay.
and idiocy in New Haven, okay?
Uh-oh.
Jimmy Wang bought a building at the corner of Chestnut and Chapel Street in Wooster Square across from Connie School.
Yes.
It's got some nice row houses near it, look kind of historic.
Is that where
No,
the
they made-
chestnut people used to be in
Used
the
to be Chess
building?
Fine
and
Foods.
the
And it's across the street
Coffee.
from Connie School, which looks nothing.
20
Huge
apartments
place,
in
looks
one
nothing like the
three-story
old
building.
Wooster Square. So it's not like this one way Wooster Square looks. And his building
Mhm.
had an addition that was put on it by 2 owners ago. for a coffee shop, but ugly. Okay? So he buys, he says, I want to make that coffee shop nicer. So he's invests a lot of money. He draws up plans. Here's some nice big windows, new roof. Now, that's called an historic district. So there's certain extra rules you have to go through. You have to go through this board of people who have their very set upper class ideas of what everything should look like. That to them, history is one moment in time. There's one moment in time when Worcester Square looked a certain way.
Right.
They closed their eyes to what is exactly across the street, the Connie School, which is a completely different era of architecture.
Right.
And they're closing their eyes to the fact that he bought this thing with this ugly addition on it. Okay, it's just kind of plain thing. And they're saying, well, come back next month. Come back next month. Yeah, I got to add this. Your roof has to slope. It's not sloping enough. Big windows. We don't want big windows. We want like little skinny windows. And he said, I already put all this money. Now it costs me over $50,000. But I'll do whatever you want. He's an immigrant, right? So they're holding this guy up and jacking up the price and not necessarily making it look nicer, not necessarily making this a neighborhood that thrives at a new century with historic roots. And this is what's getting me on. So they're picking out this little guy because they have their own ideas of what it should look like. What made Worcester Square really interesting and why it's got all this cachet? It was Italian-American immigrants who did such a great job. They knew how to work with their hands. They brought all this culture and food. And they in this urban renewal area, they fixed up all these buildings like the old Captain's Row on Court Street.
Yep.
And that happened organically from individuals who brought their own ideas and responded to what was happening in their time.
Right.
Now they're stopping this poor immigrant guy because he doesn't want to do something that looks exactly like a bunch of brownstones near him. It's going to make it nicer. I don't think they're necessarily right. That government should tell them you got to have this size window versus that size window because some other windows look that way there nearby, or the roof looks like this versus two of the other roofs but not two others. And they're jacking them up, and they're stopping an ability of someone to improve that neighborhood. And I do love recapturing history. And people have done this in Worcester Square. They know that Worcester Square's culture and history is a selling point. So if you want to invest in a building, I remember Harvey Koisen did when he saved the old guest house and made that into apartments. He thought he could sell them and make a profit and do a nice job by making it look like it did in history. Somebody else wants to make it nice, but a building that doesn't look like the rest of history across from like a spaceship school that doesn't look anything like the history. And he's going to make it nice a little bit his way 60 years later, 80 years later. And they're jamming him up and catching up the price and delaying it. I just think it's horrible.
You raised the biggest point of it all. If their premise is going to be unhistoric, then you raise the best point in bed, right across the street. You broke your rule.
Also, how do we preserve history? I think we should preserve history. We knocked down too many buildings.
Are they going to jam up the? Are they going to jam up the people building on the Comcast building? They're going to make that building. They're going to make
it look
new,
just like the
I'm
road.
I'm guessing it's right across the street from Olive, so it might not be in the district. But also, there are all sorts of buildings there that are kind of ugly going up right now.
That's true.
But we might not think that. I mean, there's stuff that used to be ugly that they decide you have to preserve because history things looked ugly then, so we got to preserve history the way it looked.
Like that damn Pirelli building.
Yeah, but
but
I really think that could be a beautiful hotel.
I'm sure.
I really do.
Yeah, so
take a bunch of pictures of it and tear it down.
Let government, let the public market, let regulators protect our health, stop greedy people from cheating us, stop from polluting and killing us, stop from polluting the groundwater, stop from making us unsafe. But you don't need government to do taste.
Listen.
You don't need government to tell people what looks good because half the time it's just their little idea of what looks good, and they end up being wrong.
When I lived in City Point, on Hollock, on the other side of City Point, in front of the field adjacent to the sound school. So when my then husband and I wanted to remodel our house because we were adopting children, we had one kid we were adopting. We knew we were going to adopt one more kid, or at some point we knew we just wanted a bigger space. So this was our house. We thought, we'll go up, we'll go back. Well, the house got on the historical register, and the whole neighborhood is on the historical register.
Right.
And so who owns history? It's always a very elite.
So this is what they told us. The only way you can
history.
renovate the house is put it back to its original look with the cedar and the whole thing. And I was like, well, why would we do that?
Really?
Why can't I go up and back? I'm not trying to go. I already had a deck on the house. I just want to go back as far as the deck is. We had a nice yard, so I didn't need all that yard. Can I just go up and back?
And the people who wrote those rules and tell you what to do.
And they were like, we'll haul you into court.
They are the planners and the government overreachers and zoners who made New Haven so much uglier in the 60s.
Right.
We had so much ugly stuff
Yes,
built
we did.
by the people who make the rules about
Like
how
Lee
stuff
High
should look.
School.
Stop making the rules
See
about
how
specific
badly
look.
high school looks?
Trust people.
With no windows.
No windows.
Trust people.
They
can-
who thought that was a
But
good idea?
there's a
And now they
pattern
don't.
here.
Now they don't want Jimmy
Pathways.
Wang to have windows.
I know.
But you know, there's a
Windows for
pattern.
Jimmy Wang.
Windows for Wang.
Windows for Wang.
Windows for Wang.
I need,
No,
you know what? I
but
need an immediate T-shirt business.
No,
Talk
but you
to
know,
Cotty.
there's a pattern. There is a pattern here on the things that we are discussing, which I hope we're going to discuss East Rock. But look at what's happening with Wooster Street, okay? Not allowing Jimmy Wang to do what he needs to do. Then we have East Shore folks that don't want to expand the airport, okay? And we have East Rock that doesn't want to give the opportunity to a gentleman to turn his place into 5 units instead of 2.
Tell me about that.
And this
Laura.
is all
Norma.
not in my backyard.
All right,
As
Norma,
long as
tell me
it's not
about that.
happening in my backyard, then it's okay to do
Tell it, Norma.
No,
What
'cause
are you talking about, Lawrence Street?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
No. Well, I was reading in the New Haven Independent.
Love that.
Love that paper.
.org, okay? And in there, it talked about this gentleman that wants to convert on Lawrence Street a 2-apartment building that he has into 5 units, 5 apartments.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, those
Go
houses
ahead,
were
Paul.
often built for families, and now you have a lot of students renting and stuff. So you kind of do it in the same space. And the Affordable Housing Task Force, everyone says we need more affordable housing. One of their big suggestions was that you make it easier to have mother-in-law apartments, smaller places on smaller lots, and that you allow this kind of thing.
But you know, when I was
What about
reading that
parking?
Lawrence Street,
Let's go to parking.
no,
pads.
they had parking also, one spot per
A lot of times as
apartment.
students, we're going to a place like Hartford, we're saying we don't need one spot for everyone because a lot of people don't have cars, and that's one of the advantages of city living.
But you know, as I'm thinking, the
density,
baby boomers,
density.
many of us are baby boomers. That is the largest number of people that had the of generation of people. We are getting into older age in which we're going to need smaller units,
Not me.
more.
Right, all but Babs on the top floor of the Alexion
Not
building.
me.
But Norris Point's well taken.
As I got older, I want to, size down, but I want to stay living in New Haven and in a place that I can afford to live. So when I thought of a 5, I have a lot there that I want to build that 5 unit in over there in the hill for my family.
All right.
But
then some kind of snooty planner or commission person's going to tell you your windows look wrong.
No, but that doesn't happen in the hill. It doesn't happen in Dixon. Well, kind of, but in the hill, you never have anyone go against it because, you don't have the kind of folks in the hill living in the hill that you do in East Rock, Wooster Street, or East Shore.
But except for Daniel's School, there was a big fight about Daniel's School, how that was designed.
But that was the different. That's a different fight. That was
Yeah.
because there was a lot of eminent domain thing going on for
That
Daniels.
was part of it. and
Oh,
part
that
of it
was
the
terrible
design
what
was
they
too
did
big.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gave, you know what they did with that eminent domain? They didn't even give the people the money that they
They
owed on the homes.
That's what I heard. I don't know how accurate it is, but that's what I did hear that. I never repeated. And
When are we
never
going to
made a-
learn from the mistakes we made in this city with zoning overreach and planners telling everybody what decisions they should make and how they should live and eminent domain? When are we going to learn from that?
Well, I got zoning. I kind of go with it because I'm one of those guys who don't want you to double park. I don't want us to get to double parking. I don't want us to get to overset. People on top of each other like rats. Somewhere along the line we got to have some kind of guidelines. We got to have.
I do. I just think we need a softer touch. I think we
I
don't
could
want to
agree
have
with
like
that.
toxic waste dumps on the green.
I
We
could
don't
agree
want
with that.
You know?
Yeah, no,
But
Paul,
like,
you're
this,
right.
but all
You're-
these owners are so upset about storage facilities. But the market dictated they wanted. There was the Cowles factory building that planners generally wanted to have, be housing or something nice, but nobody was coming in to build that.
Which one? What building?
This is on in the edge of Worcester Square down
Yeah.
as you're going towards
Yes, when you
Lawrence.
go down,
Right.
when you
You
go
all see
down all the way
Cowles
down
off
to
Brown
the end.
Street and Water Street.
When you go all the way to the end
So
of
then
Worcester, that's storage
some people
facility.
did, some people didn't want to live in an apartment right under the highway ramp, that kind of thing. So the money wasn't there, but the market wanted the U-Haul storage facility, and it is good that the neighborhood worked with them, like you talk about being good with the neighbors, Babs, and they did a good job of allaying concerns. But there was a market for a storage facility,
Yeah.
and they're in there. It's a going concern. People are happy with it. And my concern, Joe, is I don't agree with you. I don't disagree with you about sometimes you need some kind of rules, though. I do disagree with you 1,000% on parking. But
I know you don't.
that's
drive.
okay. It's an honest disagree. Well, I do drive sometimes, but yeah,
Do not.
once in a while, a month or
I
something. Yeah.
love seeing this guy pedal
Then I
by
tell
me.
everyone to get off the road. 'Cause I'm constantly saying- But sometimes let the market talk. Not when it comes to polluting. Not when it comes to hurting people. Not when it comes to predatory finance.
But that's the whole thing right there. I clearly understand, but when does it stop? There are people who are going to say they don't want government involved in this, and then all of a sudden that's how polluting sneaks in.
I
Because
agree.
the
So you know what?
argument
We
goes-
have to be able to have nuanced conversation.
Yeah, we
Rather
have
than
to
government
be
all
able
good
to,
and government all bad.
Right.
We need individual freedoms and we need collective goals met of safety and affordable housing and health care. So I think
But
we
I
need to
don't-
know where we draw the line on a market.
I mean, I think we
But
have to draw the
where
line.
do we? Because I'm with you on this.
Well, here's
Paul,
where
but
I
my
draw the
point
line.
is- go ahead.
I don't want to see housing what is these little micro housing things? I don't want to see that.
I'm getting tired of them, to be quite honest
I don't
with you.
I don't like that concept.
Micro apartments is like so micro mindset because
It just sounds like, it just sounds
what if
prison.
some people want them?
no.
You're not forced to.
You're not forced to, but if
listen,
we
If
have
there's
too
a market,
many of
if
them,
there's a
let me
market,
we
tell
have
you
too
what
many
one-
of them, Paul. We're gonna end up with a problem like that period that you say where it might be overpriced.
so they knock down a wall and they're not micro apartments
Like
anymore.
if that's what they're gonna do.
Listen, wanting
I'm
is
okay,
free.
but I feel the mark can do it.
You
But
can
you
want
know,
whatever you want, but
Lamont is getting ready to name somebody from New Haven.
Not a Sailor
Commissioner-
Mascara, would it be?
That's
what?
right.
Who?
For
Shayla.
Norma, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Tell us
Who?
about
I
it.
think that. I don't know if we're supposed to.
Yes, we can. It's already
Well,
been
we're already
reported.
on the
Okay,
mic.
okay,
It was
yeah.
reported in the Connecticut Mayor yesterday. A New Haven Latina
yeah.
with a great track record in New Haven, great experience, has been tapped to be the next housing commissioner in Connecticut. Sailor
Oh, who is
Mascara.
it?
Nice.
Shayla Mosquera.
Oh, Shayla's not
okay.
Shayla. Sorry.
Yeah.
And she does New Haven Neighbor Works. New Haven, they have a number of names for
So
what
we're
they were.
happy about that?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's wonderful.
Congratulations,
Yay.
Shep.
Yes.
Score one for the Latinos.
Local.
Especially
woman
from
makes
New
good.
Haven, right?
Right?
All right.
Was she born and raised here?
I don't think so.
Or did she move?
But she's settled here,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah,
she
she's-
definitely,
Oh, no, I wasn't
definitely
born
is.
and
very
raised here,
much
but
involved.
tell
She
me
was
I'm not a
involved
New
with the
Havener.
DeStefano administration.
I'll
She's
wait.
been here
And
for a
she
long
also
time.
she fits Norma's description of who counts as Latino if you name them,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I
Oh,
tease
is
you
it?
about that.
Well,
like
yeah,
it's got to be the
somebody
right
that's
kind of
connected
Latina.
with the community, definitely.
Absolutely.
You know?
I
All right.
don't got no dog in that fight.
Me either.
That is involved in helping us
I don't got no
How do you
dog
keep
in that
what we
fight.
have and increase what we
How do you
need to
feel
have.
about the governor going back and his promise about tolls? He wants to have tolls for everybody. Which
I love it.
I love him on the substance. I wonder about. So he couldn't get elected if he had said I was going to be for this. So he lied.
I know. So
He said there is no way I'm going to be for tax on cars. He claims he's been spending 15 years studying everything
I
about the
don't-
Connecticut
I don't-
budget. So it's not like he discovered something new and had to change his mind 3
Paul,
weeks
you just
later.
mad because he took my call in the middle of the night and said, "Okay, Joe, I'm gonna put them tolls you want."
No, I'm glad he wants the tolls, but he did lie about it, and people then have less faith in
Did he
government.
necessarily lie, or did he just look at the books and then
Or
realize?
misspoke,
guess
like
what?
they
We're
say.
gonna
He told
need to
us,
do
and he's
this.
right, he's been looking at the books for 15 years.
Yeah.
He did not just look at the books when he got elected. He had a very clear idea
But
what
you
had
could
happened.
you could look at things. A great example is
Joe,
that
you're trying to
Barack
tell me it's not raining when it's the thunderstorm.
No, because
The
I'm going
guy
to give you a
knew
great
what he was going to
example.
do when he lied about it to get elected.
I'm going to give you a great example. Barack Obama looked at he looked at the economy, and then when he took office, it wasn't until he took office he realized there were 2 wars that weren't on the books.
Okay, but Ned Lamont knew because it was in every article, and he had a think tank, and he talked about
Yeah,
how he
but
studied the
that's- you know
budget.
what?
He
But
knew
that's-
there was a big.
But
We
I
needed
don't
$1 billion
think that's not
for
a lie,
transportation.
Paul.
No.
Because you could study all you want when you outside the game.
When you
but
get
when
inside,
you get in the arena,
Then you realize,
Babs,
how-
I agree with you, but in this case, every fact has been known and publicly debated.
So what would you like him to do?
Tell the truth.
What do you mean tell the truth?
When you're running for office, don't lie. So
oh, come on,
he
Paul,
lied.
seriously, I don't
Because
think he
Babs,
lied.
here's the facts everyone knew. Makes $1 billion the kind of improvements we need in infrastructure. If you just toll trucks, you're going to get $200 million. You're going to get 1/5 of the money. If you tax cars and trucks and give a discount to people in state, it's estimated you get $800 million.
You can't give people a
Those are
discount.
facts
No, you
everybody
can't-
knew.
but
Okay,
you
but that's a
can't
separate
do
issue.
it.
That's
Okay,
those are
all right,
facts that
okay.
were known. Those are the facts he gave for why he changed his mind. Everybody knew those facts. Everybody knew that his campaign said, "Oh no, even though everyone wants to vote against Trump, we might lose this election because our candidate's such a dud." you better go out there and lie and promise that under no circumstances will you put in tolls on drivers.
You really think that was you think that's the reason why people voted for him?
No, people voted against Trump. But he would have lost the election because the other side kept saying, if you elect Ned Lamont, you're going to get tolls on cars.
I don't think he would have lost the election because of that.
Their polling was telling them that. I mean, look, it was so, Babs, he said over and over again, it is not true. Over and over again. I was at the debates, everything on TV. The Republicans said, if you elect Ned Lamont, you will get tolls on drivers.
Okay.
Ned
But
Lamont said,
every other state that has tolls, they toll everybody.
Well, that's
and their
why
mother.
I'm for it.
So
I'm
that's
for
why
it. No,
I
I'm
don't have
for
any problems.
tolls. I'm for tolls because we're losing all this revenue that other states are collecting from us.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that over and over again, Ned Lamont said, I promise, if I get elected, you will not have tolls on cars.
But are we talking about tolls on cars of the residents of Connecticut, or are we talking about tolls on cars of everybody that comes through our roads?
It have to be on everyone. You can't just. It's unconstitutional to just.
I thought the
charge
unconstitutional was if it was just the trucks.
No, you can't charge. That's what Rhode Island is going through right now. They're taking it to court, and that's why they open it up to everyone.
But in any case, he did lie. He said, "I promise I won't." He had all the facts. It wasn't anything he learned when he got in. It wasn't like Obama.
He
What is this guy's
misspoke.
name?
He
No.
misspoke.
He said it so many times.
All right. Here's the thing. He's a liar. Can we move on?
No, we can't move on. What's his name? Norquist? What Norquist
I guess
does
my
it?
question was, Babs,
Paul
you're right.
explain,
This is the way politics is done. You say one thing, get elected. My question is, are you able to govern? If you do something important, but you first lie about it, will people trust you and trust government?
You know, I'm
Yes,
not.
of course
You know,
they're gonna.
listen. I'm not marrying him, so that's a whole other trust issue. I mean, I just think from where I sit.
We used to pay tolls before, so that
No, it's not even
You
that-
keep
It's not
bringing up
even the
tolls.
pain.
I'm for the tolls.
No, he's on the lie part. Right now, Paul is playing Grover Norquist.
Yeah.
You know, here it is
I'm playing
that
Bernie
Trump-
Sanders.
No,
People
you're playing
voted for
Grover
Sanders
Norquist.
because he told the truth.
No,
He was for stuff. You might like it, you might not.
No,
he said,
but-
"Well, I think we should help poor
I'm sorry.
people."
I'm sorry.
So what
Paul
about?
is
I'm
being
sorry.
Bernie Sanders, and yet he doesn't
Listen.
want him for president
Let me-
because he's too old.
Yeah, it's true. He is too
let me
old.
put-
That's ridiculous.
Let me put Bernie Sanders to rest. Black women are not for him.
He's going to lose this time. He's too
Next.
Yeah, that's
no,
okay.
I don't think he's
That's
too
okay.
old.
I don't think it's because
I'm
he's
never
too
going to
old.
say he's too old. I'm
Never.
not going to say
Never.
that.
I will.
That would
He'll
but
be 87 years old
see,
in the
that's not a
second
black
term.
folks' problem, Bab.
87
We
years
don't
old?
care
So
about
we're
that.
going to live to be
We have
120.
sharp
The
grandparents,
87 is
you
still
know?
young.
That's good. Yeah, we have sharp grandparents. We don't
Yeah,
worry
we
about
don't
that.
care about that.
We're like, look, I still go to my grandfather for advice.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
and my
So
mother.
I'm okay with your grandfather. I don't think Bernie's going to be with it at 87. I'm sorry. I'm just not seeing it. He's kind of like off message a little bit now.
I like Bernie.
78. I like him too.
No.
I like his ideas, and I hope that,
Grover
And I like
Norquist
his
over here
gumption.
who don't want to forgive.
Oh, my
gumption.
You don't
God.
want to forgive Ned Lamont like Grover Norquist didn't want to forgive
Stacey
Bush.
Abrams.
No new taxes.
Stacey Abrams
What about-
told the truth, and people said you can't get anywhere telling the truth. She went into white, independent, not liberal districts of Georgia
Yeah.
and won more votes than conservative white Democrats had won because she told the truth of
Yep.
what she believed. She made the case for it.
The case was already there. When
And I'm
we're
sorry,
talking about health
is she the governor now?
She won
No.
the election.
Hey,
It was
thank-
stolen.
No.
And
but-
she did better than any Democrat did.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, Paul, it was based on a
'Cause
total
she told the
different
truth.
issue because this was that issue that she walked into the kitchen tables and stood up strong for was health care.
Yes.
People already saw that in motion. They experienced the benefit of it.
Good
We're
point, but
talking
every
about-
other Democrat ran away from that issue because they were scared of Republicans
I
calling
understand
them
being scared and all of that, but you can't
pro-government.
compare what she ran into kitchens and stood up for when she had all of that.
I will
and compare
compare
it to the toll booths.
I will
The toll
compare
booths-
what she did to Ned Lamont any day of the week. She had the hardest thing. She said, "I'm going to be a proud black woman who stands for
Paul
some
doesn't like
unpopular
Paul.
ideas."
Women. He doesn't
in
like that
Georgia.
at all.
She was in Georgia.
Yes, but she
where
had
no
a-
one has elected in the whole country a black woman governor, let
But
alone
she
Georgia.
had proof
She stood
that
for
she
stuff.
could- but she had proof that health care was working
Listen,
for
listen,
Americans.
listen.
That was a good.
Listen.
That was a great argument
Paul's
for her.
still mad at Bridgeport mayor.
Yeah, he's true.
No, I made my peace with him. He
Yeah.
was okay. Here's the thing.
As
Ned
long
La-
as he doesn't run for governor.
Ned Lamont had a layup. He was running on a year when everyone wanted to vote against Trump, and they had someone never heard of the Republicans. Stacey Abrams took on history.
Yes,
and
she
she
did.
it
I'm
by-
not trying to
and
take away
people
from Stacey
connected
Abrams.
because she
I'm not
was
doing
bold.
that in the
But I'm
slightest,
saying
but-
the lesson here is be bold enough to believe in what you believe in,
Ned
and people
Lamont
respond.
is no Stacey
Heck
Abrams.
Damn
no.
straight.
Not
You know,
even in the
Paul guy
slightest.
sounds like a young Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
That's what my daughter thinks. Only nice thing she ever said to me in the last 10 years.
But you still don't want you still don't want the older you to be president.
That's true.
That's ridiculous.
I think at some point, I think 70s now are okay, but 87
You're
to be the
starting to
leader
be-
of the free world. Do you remember Reagan had dementia for the last 18 months? They couldn't
We
wake
know
him up
that.
when there was a crisis.
Ma-
Bernie will be the same. He'll be saying
No, he
millionaires and
won't. Don't be
billionaires.
wishing
They're
that on
wrong.
Bernie.
No, you can't.
No.
Just because something happened to one person, you can't put it out
87
to
to run the world?
We know
Yes.
people that
Why
are
not?
100 and got all their marbles.
Okay, so what about the 70-something right now, the platinum blonde 70-something-year-old that's running the world right now?
I want him
Listen.
out.
Listen,
what about that?
Listen, we
God,
don't.
terrible.
We're not
He's scary.
ruled. We're
It's
not
totally
ruled
scary.
by a monarchy. There's a succession here.
Right.
You have a president, a vice president, a secretary of state. All these people.
Thank you.
So he wouldn't be like sole rule supreme leader of the universe. Somebody would step in.
Bernie, there's a bomb coming our way. The billionaires and the millionaires. Bernie, we're not talking about the millionaires and the
You see,
billionaires. There's a
memorizing
bomb
speech.
coming. All right.
Okay.
You guys are right. I'm wrong, but it was fun. Thanks,
That
everybody,
was a
for
good one,
listening
man.
to Pundit Friday.
Yeah.
We always have a great time and get to the meat of the issues. Thanks so much to the best pundits. Babs Rolls Ivy, Norma Rodriguez Reyes, Joe Ugly, Marquisha Ricks. We can't wait to see you next week.
Yes,
Club,
we
you have a
miss
great
you.
rest of your journey.
Hope you're doing well, honey.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks, Ife, for the comments. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. And I got an idea. Let's all close our eyes and dream what it's like to be free and then book our flight. Book your flight with us all weekend long here and fly with us at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.